kind of strikes me as this really busy time, you know, the roaring 20s, and maybe people just didn't have time to reflect as much, but I did find some scrapbooks from then. So this says, I was looking on eBay at scrapbooks from the 1920s, and I found myself feeling a bit disappointed that they didn't really look 20s enough. Which is of course completely ridiculous. Isn't it funny how we get a certain idea in our heads about how different eras looked? It makes me wonder what people will think the 2020s look like. Which is a funny thought, isn't it? It's already 100 years later. What will people think in the 120s? Who knows? And then here I've got a 1920s selfie with the big camera and a photo of someone on a typewriter there. I like these 20s style stickers. And then I've also got some little copies of magazines and sketchbooks from the 20s. I've made those into a mini notebook. It's Amelia Earhart there. I really enjoyed making the flaps for this page, and I actually had such a cool time lapse of me making this, but the video file somehow got corrupted, so that was quite sad. But I'm glad with how it turned out. Then we have a post about Frida Kahlo, and for the prompt for the journal challenge for this one, I just called it Pick an artist from the 30s, 40s or 50s, so people could have the freedom to talk about whoever they wanted to. But I picked Frida. Though I love her paintings and portraits, I love Frida's journal even more. It's so fascinating to see her thoughts and feelings laid bare. Upon first look, it seems she had a weird and wonderful mind, and I'm sure she did, but I do think the true beauty is not just in what she thought, but more in how she expressed it so freely. I think anyone's mind would look strange, twisted and beautiful if it were laid out like this, raw and uncensored. And then here are some pages from her journal, and I've added some little facts in. So I've got, did you know, 55 of Frida's 143 paintings are self-portraits. She used introspective self-portraiture to express her internal struggles with physical and mental suffering. Did you know, as a child, Frida wanted to be a doctor. Painting was just a hobby, but at age 18, she got into a near-fatal accident where an iron handrail impaled her pelvis. Yikes, sorry about that. Should have put a trigger warning on that, that's horrible. The spinal injuries caused led her to a life dealing with chronic pain. In hospital, Frida began to paint more. Her dad made her an easel so that she could paint from the hospital bed, which is a really sort of weird and horrible example of a silver lining, isn't it? That she dealt with so much, but she kind of turned to painting because of it. During her lifetime, Kahlo was often known as just Diego Rivera's wife, rather than an artist in her own right. It was only after her death, and much later, that her work became so famous and sought after. It even broke records. Again, a weird bittersweet thing, isn't it? Did you know Frida was openly bisexual, fiercely proud of being Mexican, and didn't give a shit about showing off her body hair? What a feminist LGBT diverse icon. Yay. Frida Mania was the name given to the 21st century phenomenon that romanticised Frida and her life, turning her more into a brand than an icon. Which I'm kind of taking part in right now a little bit, aren't I? But I'm trying to not romanticise her life by including some of the, you know, lesser known and maybe more tragic facts too. It wasn't all roses. That being said, I did draw Frida with the flowers on her head just because it's so iconic. I drew this Frida illustration in black and white for a kid's book, and I then coloured it in for this page. I liked it so much so that I turned it into some stickers. So here you can see that I've added it to some of the washi tape stickers I designed for last month's journal club. I just thought it looked really cool on there. And then this page is really cool. I'll read you this. How Frida Feels Colour. I love discovering this little page, this is her journal page, where Frida tests out new pencils and writes down her strange, emotional and both vague and specific associations with various colours. They're certainly very different to the associations that I would make. I'm going to make a page like this in my own journal. And then I've translated some of these here, so it was quite a difficult task for my crumbling Spanish skills, but I gave it a go. So this here says, so it's yellow, can't read my own writing, it says madness, illness, fear, sun and happiness too, which I thought was really strange but really interesting. Then we have green, leaves, sadness, science, the whole of Germany is this colour. This blue, it says the colour of bad adverts and good business. How bizarre. Red, we've got blood, who knows. This blue we have distance, tenderness can also be this blue. Now we have another yellow that says more madness and mystery. All ghosts wear suits of this colour. How strange. Or outfits of this colour. I really like here she's put nothing is black, truly nothing. And I love that one because it's kind of true. Like I draw black outlines around everything, but you don't see that in real life, do you? And then this sort of browny red colour says colour of sand and leaves that have turned. That's an interesting look at someone's mind. Now we move on to the 60s. So the 60s page is kind of a 60s aesthetic, but the writing is about the intensive journal method, so I'll read you that now. The intensive journal method is a psychotherapeutic technique developed in 1966 by Ira Progoff, consisting of a series of writing exercises. And then on the front of the book that was about this whole journal method was this quote, writing to access power of unconscious and evoke creativity. I thought it was cool to see how journaling started to be developing into something that was used for therapy and was used for mental health. That kind of came about in the 60s by the look of it. I really like the 60s aesthetic, the kind of hippie thing going on and having it all yellow. I like this little diagram that was on the website for the intensive journal method, and it has creativity, energy, healing, self-esteem, intuition and insights. They must be the things that this journal method helps with. So that was an interesting bit of research. Now we have 80s, as you can see. So for this spread, I found my mum's scrapbook from 1981 and 82 when she was 15 or 16. It's so fun to be able to include it. So the scrapbook's here. I'll give you a close-up view. I like the lamp on this page. There's a very fashion aesthetic happening on this page in my opinion, but I'm not sure if that's what Mum was going for. We have what a weird page. Some things I see why Mum kept them because I would too, but not in this case. Who are these men? And then this is really spooky. Look, it says on this page, Mum kept an advert for Kia, K-E-A. Not quite Kia, K-I-A, but close enough to be an amazing and kind of spooky coincidence. I see Mum's love of jewellery started from a young age. She's honestly like a jewellery magpie. And look, she had like a little tiny drawing in there of a necklace and earrings. Some pages have such weird and wonderful collections of things, like this for example, a cupboard, a fan and a cobra. I do love it though. There are so many Christian Dior adverts in this scrapbook and they all look super 80s, so cool. The scrapbook itself, there's the cover, is a little worn and tattered now, but I think it's all the more charming for it. There's another page from it. My favourite letter is this K that's also a stack of books, so clever. So every letter on the front of scrapbook is a different little element. And then this letter B has thread carefully wound or sewn all the way around it, which must have taken ages to create. It's so interesting to see which bits and pieces Mum decided to keep. Some of them are so cute, like these little woodland animal tags. On this page, Mum made a Gustav Klimt style mosaic from sweet wrappers. I love it. She remembers it taking such a long time to make. Some pages are more interesting than others. It looks like this page of faces went left unfinished. I swear I thought that this was Post Malone for a second. I actually wrote that. Why? I'm so glad that Mum kept her scrapbook from all those years ago. It's amazing to see and to think that this is part of where my passion for journaling came from. I also spent some time with the fam looking for mum and dad's most 80s looking photos. I think these retro skiing photos take that crown. I want ski gear like that. And I have all these 80s skiing photos of, there's like my gramps, my dad, my uncle, my gramps, mum and dad. I've got mum there making Moody look cool since 85. And there they are in their 80s gear. Looks so cool. So that's the 80s spread. These patterns and doodles took ages. I made these with Posca pens. I think maybe I went a bit overboard, but I do like how it looks. Then we have the 90s spread. So I was born in 1995, which means that the late 90s and early 2000s were one big happy blur for me, but I do know this. My obsession with journaling started early. I had one of these 90s girl tech journals that opened when you said your secret password, and I loved it. I had a diary inside with a torch and a secret compartment where I kept some of my favourite sweets, cherry drops. There it is, the exact one that I had, and I've put that I still remember the music that played when you opened it. Da, 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 da. When I wasn't writing in some kind of diary, I was always doing something else involving arts and crafts, like entering colouring competitions, being a fashion designer with paper doll clothes like these, or even playing around with paint on our Art Attack game on our old computer, usually printing off pages and pages of crappy drawings and creations, much to Mum's despair, as she tried to save ink without discouraging our creativity. Sorry, Mum. And then here I've got, it simply wouldn't be right to make a journal spread indulging my 90s nostalgia without including this, my earliest and most loved PC game, Magic Fairy Tales Barbie as Rapunzel. So it came out in 1997, but I'm pretty sure I didn't play it when I was 2, so it must have been a bit later. Tell me if you remember this game, because I absolutely loved it. It doesn't have anything to do with journaling, it was just an enchanting part of my life. It did inspire creativity in one way though. You could print off colouring pages, of course. I love playing this game and choosing sheets from it to print off and colour in. Good times. I've got some stills from it there. I love that so much. Then we have a very messy and green New Millennium spread. So this is about 2000 to 2009. So it's all just a big blur of stuff. I'll bring it a bit closer. I loved Art Attack and Club Penguin. I love these kind of stickers then, and I still do now, all of these like shiny 3D butterflies. I think I used to stick them on my face. I thought these strappy combat trousers were so cool. Probably exposing myself, they're so ugly. I have no idea why they were trendy, but I did love them at the time. I had a bright pink pair and I thought they were the coolest thing ever. I had Now 44 on cassette tape. That came out in 2000. I actually used to listen to a cassette. It's so weird to think about now. I've got the songs that are on there as well. So it's really small, but it says Britney Spears, Baby One More Time, Shania Twain, that don't impress me much. Oh yeah, there's Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die. All the classics. Then I have Pokemon Emerald, the only Pokemon game I played. I had to put Crazy Bones on there. Please someone tell me they know what I'm on about. And then obviously this spread has to have something to do with journaling. I have a picture of my secret inventions manual that I made in about 2004. So there's like a little diary of my inventions, which I might show you more of later on another video. It was so funny to read back. And I have Pixo, Bebo and MySpace and a little profile there just so we don't forget about them. 2006-ish, I think. So I've put, making these spreads has been quite a trip to rediscovering my inner child. I'm surprised and delighted to realise I've always been very on brand. For example, apparently I made my first ever handmade journal in 2006. I actually found it the other day and I've got a little note in the front that says, "Welcome to the book that's entirely made by me. I made the paper, I made the felt, and I made the cord that ties it together. This book is totally, spelt wrong, truly all by me." So I was proud of handmaking